Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of It's Me Speaking to You. I am, as always, your ever-faithful host, Mr. Jeffrey Wilson, coming to you live and direct from the Gateway to the West, St. Louis, Missouri. And today, a very special guest, man. Been following this brother for quite a minute, man. A UFC vet. Caught him back in the day on The Ultimate Fighter 4. This guy, man, he's a beast, man. He holds wins over former lightweight champion Chance Pulver, former welterweight champion Matt Serra. He is the co-host of Dana White's show, Looking for a Fighter, as well as the Morning Wood with the UFC welterweight champion Tyron Woodley. Mr. Dean Thomas is blessing us today. What's up, brother?
Hey, man, how's it going? Wow, that intro was was overwhelming, man. Wow. Thank you.
Did
I appreciate all that good stuff.
You did it, my man.
Well, I just wake up every day and I need to do something. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, absolutely, man. Get busy living or get busy dying, man. That's what my man said in the old Shawshank. Yeah, man, so tell me, I mean, obviously, the world kind of knows who you are, obviously, but, when did the mixed martial arts bug bite you, man? Obviously, you've been in the game for a long time. Obviously, you're rolling with Tyron. I roll with Pat Miletich. He says he's known you for a very long time. When did the martial arts bug bite you, my man?
Let's say this, I'm 40 now. I first saw the UFC when I was 18. So about then, about 22 years ago. Yeah. Ever since I first saw it, it was just, but I mean, it was different back then because there were no career opportunities. It was just love.
Right.
It was love. It was passion. It was just do it because, really nobody else was doing it and nobody else knew what it was. And, I saw it and I said, man, I have to learn how to fight. At that time, like nobody really knew what fighting was. We lived in different times, but I was a small guy and I just said, man, I have to learn how to fight. And I just sought it out and I ended up doing it, and next thing I know, I was doing it as a career, and here I am today.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Like I said, man. I mean, you've been in the cage with some of the best, bro. I mean, like I said, Chance Pulver, Matt Serra, BJ Penn. I mean, you've definitely seen a who's who, and you've been there, man, kind of since the beginning. And it's weird, bro, because like we've all seen and we're all watching the sport literally like evolve and transform like right before our eyes. Like it's like liquid almost. It's happening so fast. What are your thoughts on the state of the sport, man? Its evolution. Obviously there's a new owner of the UFC. What do you see? Where do you see the UFC, mixed martial arts kind of at large and the future of it, if you will?
Yeah, this is all crazy for me because like you said, I've watched it evolve from the beginning. I was involved in mixed martial arts since 95. I first seen it in 93, but been an active participant in it since 1995. And I've been at the forefront of it from that point all the way up until today. And I think that we're looking at a piece of mixed martial arts that we've never seen before. So I am just blown away at what the possibilities are now. I would have never thought that we would even be at this point. Coming up in the 2000s, you're looking at it like, this is all going to fade away one day. So, just enjoy it while it lasts. But now we're looking at, a sport that's sold or an organization that's sold for, $4 billion. Yeah. And, when Meryl Streep goes on and says, that that's what people have to look forward to watching on TV, MMA, and she puts it in the category of with football, it's like, we made it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was gonna.
MMA has made it.
Yeah, you jumped the gun on me with the Meryl Streep. I was gonna ask you about those comments. That was, I thought that was a pretty big display of her ignorance of the sport. I mean, you're talking about martial arts that's existed for thousands of years that people have spent their lifetime perfecting. So it's just like I thought that was one of the most ignorant statements I've heard.
Yeah, but you know what? She was wrong, but she was not wrong.
In what respect?
And first I will say this. I don't think she meant to be, I don't think she meant it in a way of, people, of hate towards martial arts. I think that, when back in the day when we first started doing this, it was very art oriented. And there are still some very traditionalists who treat this as an art. But, I've seen the sport get watered down to the point where, it's kind of ruined the art and taken the art out of it. And here's the thing but I don't believe that she knows that. You know what I'm saying? She just kind of made the statement not knowing what she was talking about. I don't believe that she knew what she was talking about But at the same time, as a person who's been involved in the sport for as long as I have, I've watched the sport get watered down and turn from something that was extremely beautiful to watch, watching a display of skill and just masterful creativity, and watching guys perform their artistry at its finest, to, you know, guys going, "You got this, bro. Just go out there and knock them out." You know what I'm saying? To me, like, I don't like watching that. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what the general public sees, and they can't really see the artistry of it, which still exists, but it's not at the forefront of it, and it's something that we don't market enough. And in fact, I feel at times that we keep it hidden for the general public, so that they can kind of see the brutality of it, because that's what people are attracted to.
Right. No, most definitely. I mean, this goes back to the days of the Coliseum. But, you know, so like Pat Miletich was my first guest on my show, you know, 80 episodes ago, and I've had him on a few times. And I literally brought up what I like to call, or which pretty much is going down now, the McGregor effect, if you will. Cats like Chael Sonnen losing to Anderson Silva and then getting a light heavyweight fight with John Jones just because he talked his way into it. And, you know, Conor McGregor's pretty much done the same thing, keeping the featherweight division hostage, doing what he's doing. In my opinion, the sport is changing in a bad way, and like you said, the art is going away. Not only is the art going away, they're also pumping kind of the WWE aspect of it. And I think there needs to be a happy medium between the two, because it is a business. What are your thoughts on that? The McGregor effect, you know what I mean? That's in my opinion kind of tainted the sport, if you will, a little bit. Still like to watch it, but it's still. Go ahead.
No, I mean, you're right. I mean, but you see, but even WWE, I mean, there are elements of that. I've actually did a pro wrestling show once, and there are elements to WWE that are as artsy as you can possibly get.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? It's disguised by, you know, the wrestling aspect of it, but that is absolutely theatrical, which is, you couldn't be more artistic when it comes to WWE. I think the problem comes is that, you know, fans have a hard time separating life from reality. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is the fans have a hard time separating life from reality. And we cater towards fans because they're the ones who keeps the sport alive. So I don't think for a second that, you know, the UFC, you know, have this, or not UFC, but any major organization has this mastermind plan of, you know, watering down, you know, the artistry and the sport and of what we call mixed martial arts. But I do think that they have to cater towards the fans, and the fans are very, and I hate to say this, but, you know, they're very just elementary. They're elementary. They're appeased by, you know, just this knockout. We live in this world star knock 'em out society, and they're just appeased by that, and we almost kind of have to cater towards that.
Kind of the ADD aspect of society, you know, and I agree with that, bro. And that's what I'm saying. I think there needs to be a happy medium, because I think I've always loved wrestling, professional wrestling, my whole life. And the beautiful part about your Ric Flairs, your Dusty Rhodes, they were able to talk people into the building, even to see the theatrics, if you will. And that's why I'm not knocking Conor's hustle, but for me, it's like, it winds up usurping kind of the rankings and who's supposed to be kind of next. Perfect example, Jacare Souza. That is my dude. That has been my dude forever. And he should have been, as soon as Weidman got hurt or whatever that was, he should have been in to fight somebody, or to even fight Bisping. But for Bisping, and I'm not knocking Tyron's hustle at all, I'm just saying for him now to go to Tyron and this and that, I'm like, dude, stay in your divisions. You know, respect these cats, man. Respect their hustle and their grind. You know what I mean? It can't be all about the fan fight, money fights, dude. You know what I mean?
Nah, you're right about that. I agree with that 100%. I feel as though, but it's hard because, you know, when you talk about this sport, like you said, it's unfolding right in front of our eyes, and it's never really been established before. Now, and I don't feel as though the general public is actually too stupid to understand it. I feel like we choose to be too stupid to understand it, because when you look at other sports, if you were to look at a sport like football, like in other countries, football is not that prominent. But when you look at football, the way we see it, it is very difficult to understand. I was trying to explain the rules of football to my friend from Sweden. It's very difficult to understand, but that's the most popular sport in the U.S. Football is very difficult to understand. Golf, another sport, very difficult to understand. But people can still understand it when they want to. But when it comes to fighting, nobody wants to understand it. All they want is to see the knockout and to see these intriguing matchups of who can talk the loudest and watch them fight. And this is something that's got to change. I mean, we have to do a better job of educating the audience to the rules in the sport and, again, that artistry of fighting, or else we're doomed to the trash-talking WWE society.
Right. Now, is that something with the Ali law? Are you familiar with that? Or the Ali?
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay. I mean, I think that's
the
something.
Ali Act.
Ali Act, and that's something having to do with I guess maintaining, like, really, like, respecting the rankings, like, literally, like, you can't do fan fights, and I don't want it to be super strict like that, but literally, like cats like a Jacare, or we're gonna get into it here in a minute with Tyron and Wonderboy. You know, he's also tapped into a little bit of that. You know what I mean? It's like, and I'm with it. There has to be a happy medium. Fighters' windows are so small. The risk of injury is huge, and the money that can be made is huge. So, like a cat like Tyron, he's definitely paid his dues, but obviously he caught a little bit of flack for, calling out super fights or whatever, it's essentially kind of what we're talking about, jumping the ranks a little bit. But again, there has to be a happy medium, and I love this sport, and that's why I was kind of asking you what you think the direction is. I think the UFC needs to be a little careful, and I've made this point on other radio shows and other shows. You have a Bellator that's still a distant second, but the UFC can't stand. A lot of their stars are going away. Like, I think this year's going to be a slow year. Connor's gone. Hopefully, with Tyron fighting, a couple of big cards, it'll be okay. But too much more bad PR and bad fights as far as usurping rankings, and more Brock Lesnar's and Cyborgs getting popped. Sorry to ramble here, but
go ahead.
I think that could spell bad stuff long term down the road for the UFC. It's these small intangibles that you can't really put a finger on now, but just small little dikes in the dam, you know what I mean? Or holes in the dam, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, but
I could be talking on my ass here. I know it's a huge company still, and
and I think that the UFC is doing the best that they can with trying to go in the right direction, but also still trying to do what they need to do for the fans to make money, because without the fans, unfortunately, there is no money. So, but the one thing that I think they can't do is they can't allow, guys to choose their own fights. And that is true, because, everybody's going to want to choose their own fight. I mean, there has to be some sort of regulatory body that, that creates these rankings. And I don't know if even the UFC should be the ones to do that, as opposed to, an independent body that creates the ranking. This is, all right, these have to be the matches to make, because these are the fair matches to make. But yeah, again, I don't think the UFC is the one that's, intentionally trying to ruin the sport.
No, I don't think so either.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just a hard thing to manage, to, again, because people aren't educated to the sport. There is an element of, all right, we have to do this fight because, the numbers aren't going to be good without this fight. And if the numbers aren't good, then we lose a bunch of money, and we lose a bunch of money, then guess what happens? We got to shut the show. We got to shut the show down.
Right.
And if they shut the show down, then we got no MMA. So there is an element that they have to kind of cater to the fans, regardless of how, immature the fans can be at times.
Yeah, no, I'm with it. I'm like I said, it's interesting to see it strike that balance, because you're absolutely right, man. You got to have, even though I was mad at it, I'm not a big fan of Bisping, and I love me some Hendo. I was just a little salty because I know Jacare is just laying in the cut and has been, and I just hate to see that, man. Connor holding that featherweight division just hostage, man, just for however long that was. That's not cool.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, man, the Bisping-Henderson fight was extremely unfair to about three guys in that
Absolutely.
division. I mean, for Henderson to have jumped everybody in front of him. I mean, like you said, Jacare, Yoel Romero, even Luke Rockhold should have got a rematch. He might have been hurt, or there might have been circumstances to keep some of these guys out. But yeah, that was kind of an unfair match for Henderson to step in front of everybody like that, and
then almost win.
I mean, I like both guys, but it's just unfair.
Yeah, and then almost freaking winning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
How
mean,
about that,
Bisping
right?
lost the last. I think he lost. I mean, whatever. I think he lost that fight against Anderson, and I think he lost that fight against Hendo. So I respect all the fighters, honestly, and I think Bisping does a great job of kind of talking his dollars up. I don't know. He just gets under my skin a little bit. I don't know why. Maybe it's his job. Like, he's doing the heel wrestling thing, and he's successful at his job. So. Well, check it out, man. Hell, in the last, 24 hours, 48 hours, if you will, UFC on Fox broke the news that your boy, your co-host, UFC welterweight champion Tyron Woodley is going to have to run back that man, I thought it was a freaking great fight against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, dude. Like I said, I'm a martial arts fan across the board. I've been a fan of Stephen since back in his kickboxing days. Obviously been a fan of Tyron's forever. What are your thoughts on that first fight? I mean, obviously, whatever the no contest, and you kind of the subsequent, Tyron was teasing other fights, if you will, and then now the rematch. What are your thoughts on this running that back?
Well, I don't have a problem with it. First thing, the first fight was a decent fight. I think the second fight will be a little different just because, both guys have experienced each other. They felt each other. They felt what their strengths and weaknesses were against each other. And I'm sure that, Wonder Boy is going to try to do something a little different, what he felt like that he missed out on his time. And then, obviously we got some things that we want to try to do in preparation for Wonder Boy this time that are a little different. So it'll be a completely different fight, I think. And, it's definitely one. I think it's still a good matchup. It's still a good fight. I know it's hard to say, man. I mean, the reason for Tyron, teasing other fights is he doesn't think that Wonder Boy should be entitled to a rematch. And I think that was the general consensus, was that, okay, it was a draw. Even though a lot of people felt that Tyron won, it was still declared a draw, but automatically he felt like Wonder Boy would just automatically assume that he should be the one to get the title shot. And Tyron was just saying...
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
And what case is that not the case, though? If normally in a no contest, don't you normally run it back? Even if it's like a boxing match?
it was a draw.
Right.
Yeah, it was a draw. But, in Tyron's eyes, like, he felt like he won the fight. Like, he felt like he dominated the fight, and he felt like, the old saying is, to be the champ, you have to beat the champ.
Absolutely.
And he felt like he wasn't beaten.
You got to take the belt from the champion. Absolutely.
Yeah, you got to take the belt. I mean, that's obviously an unwritten rule. You know what I'm saying? It's an unwritten rule. And he just felt like, at no point in that fight was he really ever hurt or in danger. So why is it an automatic rematch against this guy?
Yeah. And it's one of those.
Yeah, and that's his mentality of it. For me, I'm like, the way me and Tyron see fights a little bit differently. For him, he felt that way. For me, I was like, listen, line him up, let's just knock him down. You know what I'm saying? That's the way I see it.
Well, and honestly,
but again, I'm not the one fighting. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm not the one fighting.
No, absolutely. But the weird thing, he winds up getting what he asked for, because I think even in the first fight, I think talking to Steven, like I said, in my opinion, Tyron, I think, did himself a disservice trying to call out super fights. And it made the fans go, whoa, man, you got to do this first contender. You know what I mean? And so that made that fight that much more interesting. And I think that's going to play out this time as well. Tyron's going to, like, everybody now knows who Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is after New York. And, that bit of controversy over this last couple days, and even Tyron looking for other fights, and then Stephen and him doing his little Twitter thing, that just upped the dollars a lot more, in my opinion. So I think he's getting what he wants. He's going to get it. It's going to be a nice gate on this fight. Las Vegas, too?
I hope so. I mean, I hope so. And if that's the case, it was purely unintentional. At times,
right.
And I'll be the first to admit that, some guys, they call each other on the side and go, hey, man, let's talk this fight up.
Right.
And I'll tell you firsthand, that wasn't done in this fight. Like, there is legitimate, animosity between these two over this issue of, getting this fight and making it happen. And, Tyron literally wants to put an end to his career and let him know that, hey, listen,
dude, let me tell you, man,
you can't just demand a fight.
Right. And I'm going to bring this up. I got Steven coming on tomorrow, actually. It cracks me up because Tyron's never not a huge talker either, but he's kind of been, talking, getting some swag, upping his dollars and stuff. Steven is like straight up. He doesn't really do that. He's pretty silent on that tip. He goes in on Tyron over in a day, right? Over just a day on Twitter, in an afternoon. And he gets the fight. He gets Tyron all riled up. What's the deal?
I don't know. And that's another thing, too. And I think that is another thing that kind of frustrates Tyron a bit, too, is he feels like he gets treated unfairly, especially in relation to Wonder Boy. He felt like, Tyron is a champ, but yet he didn't get as much promotion as Wonder Boy. You know what I'm saying? Like Wonder Boy is he's a contender, but yet he felt like Wonder Boy was getting all the promotion. He felt like, they throw the flag around Wonder Boy and, promote him, but Tyron's the champ as if like he's an outsider. And that kind of, and not for nothing, man, I think that kind of stung him a little bit. Like, hey, man, what's going on here? Why is he getting all this extra love and I'm the champ?
As well it should. No, absolutely. And that's how it was with that Nunez-Rousey thing. It was like Nunez was like, yo, hello, champ over here. You know what I mean? Oh, Ronda wasn't even doing press. And they still was like, Ronda was champ.
Yeah, I mean, but that was extremely blatant. And I understand Dana's reasoning behind that was to say, hey, listen, if you win, then guess what? Everybody's going to know who you are based on the fact that we did promote her. She was the draw, but you beat her, and the way you did, now everybody knows who you are. But my thing now is that, okay, when that happened, everybody knew who she was, and then even everybody knows who she is now, but there needs to be a follow-up. There needs to be a ripple effect. Y'all need to continue this so that people can stay with her. Because, you let 2 weeks pass, another big fight, people will forget about Amanda. So, I think, and it's hard for Amanda to just do her own press. I mean, we're talking about MMA people here. We don't have, it's not an established sport. And again, this is all new to all of us. So, nobody really has, trustworthy PR people to know how to market ourselves. So, I mean, I think that is. Well, now you got William Morris in there, dude.
Hopefully that'll change. I mean, and Dana.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping they get behind her.
Yeah, well, I mean, and Dana honestly has said before, and that's not. I wouldn't think it's just racial. I'm not even throwing that out there like that. But it's hard to market like a Jacare, if you will, if he was champ. Like the guy doesn't speak English very well. You know what I mean? It's hard to put. And I'm not saying this is cool, but from his standpoint, it's hard to market some of these people when they're not as quote unquote Americana, if you will. So, I mean, you see that kind of play out. See that play out too, which is unfortunate, hugely unfortunate. But so I'm gonna let you slide here in a minute, brother. So going back to the fight, man. They got they got Wonder Boy, Tyron gonna run it back. How do you see that playing out? Obviously, you got your boy.
Obviously, I got Tyron in that fight, of course. I mean, the one thing that does remain constant, that will remain constant, whether it's this fight or the first fight, is that Tyron is just a better athlete. And I believe that is, and not to say that that's the only element, but, his fight IQ is extremely high, and he is the better athlete. And there's nothing that Wonder Boy can do to kind of make up ground for that in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, so, I found that interesting. He said that he can, all the whey protein's not going to make up for 20 years of wrestling, and that's a huge point, man, big point. Yeah, and it's just going to be very difficult to overcome an extremely upset Tyron Woodley. I think that, and this kind of reminds me of when he fought Robbie. And not that he got emotional against Robbie, but there was a element of emotion that Tyron had, a happy emotion to want to make a statement in that fight. There was I got to make a statement in this fight, and he was emotional about wanting to make a statement, but in a happy way. And I almost feel that same emotion from him in this fight, is to say, you know what, I need to make a statement in this fight, and I believe he will. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good way to channel it, because as too emotional, can kind of take you off your square, and obviously, Wonder Boy's not someone you want to come in, off, emotionally, mentally off. You know what I mean? You definitely want to still be on your square, which of course he's going to be. So I'm very anxious to see that, man. That's gonna be a dope fight, man. I tell you what, man, I'm gonna have to have you on again sometime. I really dig talking to you, man. Shout out anywhere we can find you, man. I know you got the podcast with Tyron. Any Twitter, any social media you want to throw out there, brother? Yeah, you can listen to me. I'm on ESPN Radio in West Palm. So you can actually download the ESPN Radio app and listen to me, ESPN West Palm. My social media is all the same thing, Dean Thomas, and that's spelled D-I-N Thomas. And also, too, I was nominated for for the Sean Tompkins Coach of the Year Award. So if you respect what I did this year, I coached Tyron and Amanda Nunes to win 2 world titles and defend them successfully. Dang. So, so if, congratulations, brother. Congratulations.
That was worthy. Please put a vote out for me. 2 world champions to successfully defend it. So
that's not too shabby, man. Not too shabby.
Yeah, not too shabby. So that's all I got going.
Are you guys done with the Looking for a Fight? You guys only did a season or 2 of that?
Oh, actually, we are going to be filming again within the next couple of weeks. But
Okay.
the new episode just aired a week ago, and we're almost at 1 million views in a week, which is phenomenal. We had about 500,000 in the first 24 hours, which is blew me away. The next episode, I'm not sure when we're going to release that, but it's a good time. Matt Serra is one of my best friends in the world, not only just MMA, but just one of my best friends in the world. And you get to see the type of relationship we have on that show.
Yeah, he seemed like a cool cat, man. That podcast he has with Jim Norton is pretty sweet. But that's cool, man. That show is awesome. Like I was talking about the Bellator, like there needs to be fresh meat brought in, and this is a great avenue to bring in some fresh faces, man. So I appreciate all you're doing, man. Good luck to Team Chosen here in March, my man. And thank you, seriously, Dean. Thank you so much for taking the time, brother.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Mr. Dean Thomas, UFC veteran, host of a bunch of stuff.